I want to touch on one more tax issue, and that is the estate tax. If you are a family business owner and you'd like to leave your family business to your children, I guess this is a good year to die.
Maybe not.
Well, Dorothy, talk a little bit about that and why that may or may not be the case.
Sure. I think you probably, I'll just really quickly run down the sad saga of the estate tax. In 2001, Congress enacted legislation that would slowly phase out the estate tax until it was totally repealed this year, which it is. We started out at a 55% rate with a $1 million exemption. Last year, we phased it down to a 45% rate with a $3.5 million exemption. Today, you don't have any estate tax at all. If Congress does nothing, it'll go back to 55%, $1 million next year. There is, baked into the baseline of the budget, Congress can extend last year's 45%, $3.5 million exemption. They can extend it for 2 years without having any revenue, without needing a revenue offset. The situation in Congress is, I think, proponents of estate tax repeal and reform feel like, and we would agree with them, this is a unique opportunity to get as much reform as we can right now, because the current situation, estate tax with the estate tax totally repealed, cannot stay. The fact that it would jump up to 55% overnight is not viable as well. So what Senator Kyle and Senator Lincoln have been working on a plan for a long time. It seems like probably the best in terms of reform, and you guys might disagree with me, would probably be a 35% rate with a $5 million exemption. If they just did that straight, lower rate, they still would have a need for a huge revenue offset. And so one of the things that they're floating now would be even a lower rate, but with the option for estates to prepay their estate tax. This, I haven't seen the exact details, but the thought is that if you raise some of the revenue within the estate tax system, they would be able to get the 60 votes needed in the Senate, and they'd be able to get something through the House. Back to your point about if you die this year, you'll be okay. I don't know that that's correct. There is a chance that if they do something soon, in fact, in the Senate, they might do something before Memorial Day. That's hard to tell at this point. But they might go retroactive back to January 1, or they might give you the option. It's true that some estates this year are in a worse position, will have to pay estate tax, they will not have to pay estate tax. They will have to pay capital gains tax on inherited assets that they would not have had to pay last year. So there are some states that are in worse shape right now than they would have been last year. So I think they'll either they might make it retroactive if they do something, they might make it optional. But in any event, I think the only people who are benefiting from the whole situation are financial planners.
How do you make a death tax retroactive once the estate's settled? Isn't that, but I guess that's sort of Washington logic.
We'll be challenging it, but I think they could do it.
Any other thoughts on the estate tax from our other colleagues? You guys, Dorothy, sum it up pretty good.
I think she's in the right place.
I think that Congress may just kick the ball down the road a bit here, given what else they have on their plate, and this is something that they're going to take up next year in a full basis.
Yeah, the question in the short term is kind of who's in the driver's seat on this thing. Are you in a better position? Are we in a better position, or are the advocates of continuing a substantial death tax in a better position by virtue of the fact that at the end of this year the repeal goes away and you go back to where we were at the beginning of the Bush administration? In a lot of ways, I think we're sort of forced into making a deal that's less than optimal. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, the majorities in Congress and the administration are probably not right now, although you never can be too sure, are probably not right now all that excited about the prospect of going to the American people this coming November, saying that in a matter of 6 weeks, the death tax is going to go back to where we were 8 or 9 years ago. I think that would be a political non-starter for him in November, and with all due respect, the President, the Democratic leadership, and the Congress, they've already got a boatload of problems.